We'll call the meeting to order. I invite you to join us with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Strand?
Here.
Garrick?
Here.
Grinberg?
Grinberg's in Chicago, will be unable to meet with us today.
Pepcorn?
Here.
Mahoney?
Here.
Grinberg's here.
Oh, you did come on. I'm sorry.
Yep. I couldn't get the mute button off fast enough.
Oh, welcome. The library, as always, is always busy. They have several exciting and interesting programs happening over the next few days, including Valentine's Day-themed Crafternoons event for kids and families on Wednesday, February 14th from 3 to 4:30 at the Northport Library. There's also an open writing workshop on Saturday, February 17th at the Carlson Library as part of the library's Northern Narratives Winter Writing Project for teens and adults. And then there's a silent reading party on Tuesday, February 20th at the Atomic Coffee in downtown Fargo, which is open to readers of all ages, where the library staff will be on hand to check out books and provide snacks. Award-winning children's book author Aim Duckman will visit the main library on February 22nd to talk about her books and her writing process. Dickman is the author of Horrible Bear, Wolfie the Bunny, and Tea Party Rules. Something for you, Tony, to have with your kid? Other events include Steam-Powered Adventures Book Club for kids who will meet on February 21st at the main library, and Beginning Yoga for adults meet this week and next week at the Carlson Library. Planning came back with the most recent apartment vacancy report, which includes information on apartment construction over the past 10 years. Vacancy rates declined in 2011-12, and apartment construction increased to meet that demand. As the vacancy rate increased in 2017, the construction of the apartments decreased. There is now a stable or positive net absorption of apartments, with the number of vacant units staying about the same. The number of completed apartments was 1,400 in 2016 and 2017. We have vacancy rates that range between 6 and 10%, so we seem to be catching up. For the police department, it was 2 years ago this month that Officer Jason Mosier was killed in the line of duty. Jason's pictures and other memorabilia is on display at the honor room at the police department. Is that downtown? Chief Todd said in 2019, when the department is completely moved into the new location at Border States Electric Building, some type of memorial to Jason on the outside of the building will put in place. Chiefs will also be seeking input from others in the department as to what is appropriate for a memorial. And the department still mourns the death of Jason and thinks of ways to honor him at this time. The City of Fargo Adopt a School program assisted Jefferson Elementary School students and staff with a superhero bingo night on February 9th. Volunteers help with playing bingo, selling goods and hand out prizes, and interacting with the students. The employees also contributed items for bingo prizes. The students are always looking forward to seeing city staff and appreciate the quality time that is shared with the students. I want to thank all the city employees who share their time and make a difference in children's lives. Wally Hub has named Fargo as one of the 25 best-run cities in the United States. When we were compared with 150 of the biggest cities in the United States on 33 indicators across 6 categories, including financial stability, Moody's City credit rating, high school graduation rates, infant mortality, average life expectancy, number of hospital beds, quality of public health system, hospital system, crime rates and unemployment rates, median annual household income, annual job growth rate, housing prices, quality of roads, average commute time, walkability and bikeability, transit, air, and other water quality issues, and the share of parkland. It's a good honor for our city to have, and continues to give us the goals of having a walkable city and bikeable city and an area people want to live. The other thing is, turned out, is Ide Bailey was nationally recognized as a city for its new website, commenting, "The City of Fargo has a great website that turns data into information. The website includes links to report issues such as snow removal, missing recycling, and crime Fargo 1, and is easily navigable. Websites are windows to customers, and states and local governments should be no different. They can also be a catalyst to solve problems. We had somebody complaining about sidewalks being shoveled, but people have to understand that's complaint-driven. So if there's something you notice that you want fixed up, is oftentimes we hear from complaints. Ben Dow doesn't drive around trying to find sidewalks that aren't shoveled, but we will respond to those items and take care of them, usually, Ben, within 24, 48 hours. So it's hard to believe that, but on the Fargo One app, you can take a picture of a sidewalk, say, here's the problem, and our team will take care of it. But we don't have them all driving around checking things out. And then last week, we had one of these great events. City, county, health, and safety officials attended a 4-day FEMA Integrated Emergency Management Training course at the Fargo Holiday Inn. Normally, we would have had to take our people and send them somewhere in Virginia or maybe somewhere warm in Florida or somewhere else and train them about national disasters that can happen. They put on an exercise in which we had 3 major events happening in the city at one time, and to see how would we respond with the shooters being part of the exercise. We got complimented from them. We had people that were in Boston at the Boston Marathon and reported back on how that went. And we had people report back to us that they really like our system. Our team does communicate with each other. We have good people that know what to do in many of these situations. One of the things we did learn is that we may have to instruct the public on tourniquets, using tourniquets on in an effort to help to stem any of the losses when people are in one of these firefights. We also learned that Mike Redlinger does not want to be in the hot zone, the warm zone. The only zone he wants to be is the cold zone, so he does not want to be close to any firing guns, I guess. There was only 8 cities in the United States that were chosen to host this course, and the FEMA puts this course on. So I think we were very happy with how it went for us, and we were glad that people participated. We'll move on to, can I have a motion to approve the order of the agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the January 29th meeting, 2018 regular meeting?
I so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 And is there a motion to approve the consent agenda items 1 through 30?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Strand,
Yes.
Gehrig,
Yes.
Grinberg,
Aye.
Pepcorn,
Aye.
Mahoney.
Aye. We'll go to the regular agenda. There's an update on the apartment incentive policy review by the Tax Exempt Review Committee. Commissioner Strand has asked in some ways, can we look at some of the incentives for this, as well as Commissioner Pepcorn, as far as the incentives for apartments and affordable housing. We have Lynn Fundingham to talk to us, as well as Dan Madler from Beyond Shelters. Is that correct?
If you want to come on up and use the podium, that would be great. Dan, maybe you can start out. And while he's coming up, we'll just kind of, I'll fill a little bit of airtime. I will say, I think we have to make a commitment to low-income housing, especially in the downtown. And I think that's kind of what our topic is that and Dan's going to talk a little bit about some of the demand that we have and things like that. So thanks for coming, Dan.
Sure. Mayor Mahoney, Commissioners, Commissioner Pepcorn, thank you for the opportunity to be here today. For the record, my name is Dan Madler. I am the CEO for Beyond Shelter Incorporated, a nonprofit affordable housing developer based here in Fargo. To date, from an impact perspective, Beyond Shelter has developed 18 projects here in the community of Fargo, serving 454 homes with an economic impact of $57.5 million. We're currently developing an additional affordable housing project, 39 units that'll serve seniors, affordable housing project for seniors, which will basically serve 39 with a total development cost or economic impact of $6.4 million. Prior to coming here today, we had a discussion at the Tax Review Committee regarding how do you produce affordable housing, what is affordable housing, and how can you produce affordable housing specifically in the downtown community. And all those are great questions, and all those questions are challenges. And it goes back to Commissioner Pepcorn's comment that you need to make it a priority. From an economic perspective and development perspective, affordable housing does impact the economy, and it's important for the economy's or community's well-being. And what I mean by that is you need a balance of housing stock. housing that's affordable to all income ranges or a variety of income ranges. And when you do that, it helps support the local labor force expansion, and also provides a more resilient, diversified economy. To do that in the downtown Fargo area, it's all about economics. How do you produce affordable rents? The cost of acquisition of the land is the same. We have to compete for market rate developers. The cost of building materials is the same. And so how do you bring down rents? It's a matter of using tools. You assemble a lot of tools to basically allow you to do that. And one of the primary tools that we've utilized in the past and continue to use that is the payment in lieu of taxes, or the pilot incentive that the community of Fargo provides. Essentially, from a perspective of what does that mean? From a current project, 39 units of senior housing, that tool, utilizing that tool, allowed Beyond Shelter to lower the rents of those 39 units by an average of $100 per month. That's huge to serve seniors. And so without that, I'd have to raise my rents another $100 just to basically be able to support my operations. And so from an economic perspective, development costs the same, land acquisition is the same. I have average operating costs of about $4,500 to $5,000 a year of expenses. If I need to basically, so that sets the benchmark. I need to collect rents to pay those bills per unit, and then also provide a margin for error for capital improvements, et cetera. And so how do I do that? I lower my mortgage costs or my holding costs. And we do that with basically, mostly with the low-income housing tax credit program. What we do is basically, instead of a single family home, usually when you want to buy a home, it's put 20% down, finance 80%. We try to utilize all the tools that we can assemble to put 80% down to equity, finance 20%, which lowers my cost to service mortgage or debt, allows me to lower my rents. From an operational perspective, to continue to operate and basically have predictable costs, the pilot comes in on the operational phase. So there's tools to help with lowering the construction cost or the debt side, and operation in the pilot is a strong economic, successful, impactful tool that we utilize. From a range of who do we serve, how do we serve, the projects we work on basically target 60% AMI, area median income or below, as low as 30% or below. So from $1 per hour, that's about $8 to $16 an hour for an individual working. On an annual salary, it's a little over $16,500, all the way up to $18,900. And so that was some of the information I provided, and it was just a matter of, okay, then how do we get this or move this forward? And it comes back to the community making it a priority, that the affordable housing is important, and providing the tools and keeping the tools intact that allow developers to basically hit those benchmarks or those targets.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a question? So let's say hypothetically in the downtown, Dan, for you to acquire land, I mean, you have to pay the same price as anyone else, correct? So is there a way that the city can assist you, or is that's just how it is? And I guess part of it is with the lots that we are going to be having available because of the flood protection. I think if we made it a priority that some of them be included in low-income senior housing, I think that would be one way. But can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. One of the assets, if available to the community, is city-owned land. And so if the city does have land and they want basically to develop affordable housing by providing an incentive or reduced costs or even a grant, saying here's the land, develop the project, that's a great tool. That's one way to do it. But to compete and provide $15 to $20 per square foot land, there's just no way that the math does not work out. That's a big cost.
Can I ask a couple of more? So have you ever done a mixed use? Like, let's say in the downtown, we wanted you to do that. Have you done that? Could that be a possibility?
It's a possibility. It's just a matter of finding the right partner and the right mix.
Okay. And then if you just talk a little bit about how the demand in Fargo for senior housing, when you complete a facility and the waiting list.
Sure. A prime example on the need. You know, we always commission market study, and the market study kind of follows what the city study has on the demographic changes. There's a strong need for affordable seniors, and there's a lot of young families coming into the community. Basically, an example of, we opened 2 projects in the last 3 years, senior projects, one a 30 unit and one a 39. The 30 unit leased up in 45 days, and the 39 units leased up in 50 days. So we filled them there, and there's a wait list. So on the senior side, our most recent example kind of shows of the demand and the need and how fast they fill up.
So can I just give you one more hypothetical example? I'm going to use my in-laws. So they have a house that they bought a long time ago in North Fargo. Well, if they could, right now, if they bought another house, it would be more expensive than what they own right now. And so what we have is there's a lot of seniors that would move into if we had it available, and then that house would be used possibly for a young family. Do you know what I mean? We kind of have a little bit of a log jam, and I think I know, Dan, you said that, in North Fargo especially, we need to make an effort. We have demand for low-income senior housing, and so if we can figure out a way, especially I think the key would be close to a grocery store and the drugstore and that kind of stuff. So from our city's perspective, if we can find out a way to get something like that going. I mean, and I do think part of this is a state effort. We need to assist you with getting more support from the legislature to do this too.
That's a great point, just because basically economic incentives are currently being reviewed by the interim, finance committee. And I think even this week, the finance committee will be taking a look at economic incentives, and the pilot may be on there. And that's a tool that you need to keep. And so going out to the state legislature or talking to your legislators saying, hey, we use this tool, we need this tool, we do not want to see it go away.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Mr. Strand?
Thank you. Mr. Madler, just with Beyond Shelter's constituents group, is it mostly seniors?
Right now, our last few projects in Fargo, we've been serving the seniors, but in the past and currently, we also produce affordable housing for homeless individuals and families, and also just regular household families.
It's not generally targeting new workforce development folks, is it?
No, basically the family projects that we have are located in Southwest Fargo, and the highest income level is 60% area median income. When I look at the workforce, I look at basically a higher bandwidth, maybe 60 to 80% of the area median income, or 60 to 100% as the target. And to get above the 60%, there's not a lot of tools out there to allow you to do that. The housing incentive fund that the state has, but they did not fund this last legislative session, was a great tool to basically help provide some workforce housing between the 60 and 80%.
In reminding this commission, I believe we voted unanimously here for your last project for pilots incentives for your housing project, but that's all seniors.
Correct.
And that's not downtown.
Correct.
And so that's my concern, is they're different issues, apples and oranges, the downtown issues and needs and challenges versus the overall broader community, especially the horizon looming full of seniors ready to retire. One last question is, update us if you could on, it's my sense that there's a real shortage or not nearly enough low-income tax credits available for Fargo, let alone the state. And even in Fargo, we have multiple projects that could be going forward if we had more access to low-income tax credits on many different fronts. Is that where you're getting to the legislative needs to change that or to address that or to lobby for that so that we can do better at our baby boomers coming into senior years and needing housing?
Sure, Commissioner Strand, great question. And yes, you need to, every chance you get, talk to the state level and the federal level. But the tax credit program is a federal program. It's an IRS program. And the state receives a minimum allocation of tax credits. It's approximately $2.7 million. So North Dakota Housing Finance Agency administers that program, and they can typically fund about 5 projects per year across the state. This last tax credit round, I believe 11 projects, mostly from the eastern part of the state, applied for those credits, and only 5 projects were selected. And so it's very competitive. And after one project is selected for the community, usually then there's discount points, so that basically other areas, there's geographic distribution of the credits. So it's really hard to get more than one project funded in the community size of Fargo. However, this year was a unique year where actually 2 projects did get funded. It's just the way that it kind of worked out with the applications and the cycles. But typically 1 project per year, 1 community, and that just slows everything down. And you can usually get about 40 units for that 1 project.
Any other questions? Lynn, do you want to come up?
Thank you.
Mayor and Commissioners, thank you so much. I didn't have any prepared remarks. I was asked to come and provide answers to questions. I can say we're in a little different with the Housing Authority. We're a little different serving a lower income group yet. About 85% of our tenants are 20% immediate income. So in the past couple or 3 years and 2 or 3 years out in front of us, our focus has been not to put in new affordable units, but the preservation of our existing. We've got 50 and 60-year-old buildings that are needing some serious rehab, and we're focused on that. And Commissioner Strand's question about lobbying for additional credits. Unfortunately, the low-income housing tax credit is allocated to states based on population. And we're a low-population state, so we get a minimum allocation of credits. So if I can answer any questions, I'd be pleased to do that.
Mr. Pepcorn?
Mr. Chairman, so one of the things, Lynn, is, so what I'd like to do is have the Tax Exempt Review Committee work more closely with you, especially in the downtown, to make sure that if we're adding apartments and things like that, that we're also having some type of number of low income to go along with that. And I know you already have a lot, and so that's kind of, I think both entities, I would like us to work better together to make sure that we're helping you. And I do think the city, even though we can't buy property, we do have ways to know where properties are available and things like that that would help you, because I think that would lower your costs for acquiring land. And I think you'd have the same experience, Lynn. You've done a great job of, you know, acquiring land in the newer parts of town, but in the downtown, it's a challenge now to get more land for you to use. I don't know, maybe that's not correct, but I think it is. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Commissioner Pepcorn and Commissioners, there is a way the city can assist in that way, and has in the past, using CDBG funds to assist in the acquisition of land.
Right. But I just think that especially in the downtown, with the prices of land going up, which is a good thing, in order for us to get some low-income or affordable housing, we have to make an extra effort. Do you think that's correct?
Yes, sir, I do. And currently, before I come over here, I thought a little bit about downtown affordability. There's about 460 units of subsidized housing in the downtown at the moment.
And I guess that's my message, Lynn, that you've done a great job, but we want to make sure that we're continuing. If we're adding other housing, we should be adding whatever the percentage is of senior and low income and things like that. And so whatever we can do to work together, I think that was the main thing I was trying. And so obviously you've done great work, but we just want to make sure that we do that in the future too.
We appreciate the support of the commission.
Can I ask you one more quick thing, and then can you give us kind of an update on the high rise? Where are you sitting with that? Are you optimistic?
Yes, sir, I am. I think the most current, and this has to go through different levels of vetting at the state and federal level, but we're looking at remodeling the high rise and bringing it down to about 100 fewer units than it is now. And the majority of those units would be seniors only. It's a fairly complicated project. It needs several layers of financing, and we're in discussion with city staff about that.
Great.
And with the state.
That's great.
Any other comments or questions? Mr. Grinberg?
I'm good here.
Okay. Mr. Strand?
Mayor, and I just have comments and questions in general. And thank you, Mr. Fundingsland, for coming in, and especially in your recuperating from your surgery. So we appreciate your public service. Here's where I'm at, okay? We already heard from Mr. Madler that the introduction of a pilot to a project can lower rent $100 a unit. And that's for targeted audiences of people who are in need, seniors or low-income folks. That's a different beast than us having people build market rate apartments downtown where they're getting pilots for 5 to 10 years and up to hundreds of thousands of dollars, and all that does is help their bottom line. And that's where I'm at, is if we can learn from our needs and applications for for seniors and low-income folks in these special projects, and we want more of them. We need more of them. But how do we translate that to these pilot requests for apartments in the downtown mixed-use zone? I'm of the mindset, and you've alluded to it, Commissioner Pepcorn, I'm of the mindset that we require a component of affordability in an apartment. So if somebody's building 100 units, we ask for 10% or 15% of them to be affordable relative to the standards as a community we can accommodate. But I think that's the difference, where these are two different things. And yet this information helps us all as a community understand the conversation and the issues relative to affordability and the needs of housing. And we need more on all fronts, I guess.
And to that point, we have 3,000 to 5,000 people that will be moving in the downtown area, and you're going to have some stimulation to get some of that to happen. So it's got to be a balance. So I think you're going to have to try to find that balance that works. So perhaps the planning department can work on that and bring back a proposal. Because you don't really, I mean, you have it in your tax exempt, Commissioner Pepcorn, but it doesn't necessarily address some of that as far as having 10 to 15% low income or something like that.
That's
But
what we're working on.
Perhaps you could come back with a proposal to us.
But the other thing is, I think that we need to work together so we know what they're doing and what their numbers are and how it compares to what the housing that is being built. And so I think it's just, it isn't that they haven't done a good job, but I just think we can if we work together, we can help them grow more, I believe. And I do think the city, from our perspective, we have some insight into lots and things like that are available. And if that can save them money for acquiring land, that aids them tremendously.
And we're going to see baby boomers kind of come on the scene more and more. We're going to have to provide for that. They always fill up right away, Dan, when he gets them full. It's obvious when he has an open house, you actually walk into an occupied apartment. You don't find an empty apartment. Commissioner Strand?
My final comment, Mayor, and folks out there that are engaged in this, there's a conversation in town right now about whether or not we should explore having a land bank, a community land trust, which is a very common tool across the country for cities facing challenges like this, where they have a land trust. And we have a lot of hoops to go through and a lot of issues to resolve in this discussion. But it's something that's going through community development. They've voted unanimously to keep advancing this topic. But that's another component into this issue of affordable housing. And if we have assets and land available, maybe we can, like Commissioner Pepcorn says, that we can partner in ways to get that result that we're all looking for. But we'll hear more about that land bank, land trust concept through the next many months, hopefully.
Lynn, thank you very much. I hate to have you come in after you've had your surgery, but appreciate you.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners.
I guess I'd also like to thank you, Lynn, for all the hard work you've done over the years on this, and I know you're going to retire, so I think we should give you a round of applause for all your good work. You've done a great job. We'll go to public hearings. We're going to have a continuing of the transfer of Class AB alcoholic beverage license from Mom's Kitchen as Tailgater Sports Cafe on Main Avenue to Demitsky Enterprises doing business as Tailgater's Mom's Kitchen. It's to be continued to the 1/29/18 regular meeting. Do I have a motion?
I'll move to continue.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Aye.
Derek?
Yes.
Strand?
Yes.
Aye.
Aye. Number B, Class Z alcoholic beverage license applications for the following: District 64 LLC and District 64 on 64 Broadway North. Steve Sprague to explain.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Tonight, we have a kind of an unusual situation where we have an increase in licenses. The Class Z license is tied to population, and this summer, we passed that triggering mechanism that said that we would have an additional license available. We did advertise in the paper that this license would be available. We also communicated through the mail listserv that I have with the other alcohol license holders and explained that this license would be available. Applications would be accepted until December 31st. We received 2 applications before December 31st, and 1 application came in a few days after the 31st. The Liquor Control Committee vetted the applications that were received timely. Actually, we looked at all 3 and decided to move forward with the 2 applications that were received on time. And so the ordinance that established the Class Z license says that in the event that we have more applications than we have licenses available, there would be a drawing at the Board of City Commissioners to determine who would get the license. And that's kind of where we're at tonight. We have the two before you, District 64 and the
Cowboy Jack.
Cowboy Jack, yep. Now, I know that there are people here that want to speak on the issuance of this, and so maybe
If
that
anybody present who wishes to speak, please come forward.
Did you want to speak? Now's your time.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and all the commissioner. I own the syndicate block, and I heard the bar going to the 64 Broadway, and those buildings are mixed use, office, retail, and residential since all last 80 years. So I don't mind if bar go on the main floor, but now they want to take bar to the second floor. And which one we have a common hallway going. And we have each agreement since 1958, which is recorded in the Cass County. So, on the other hand, those party don't own the building, they don't have any lease agreement, and they don't have any purchase agreement. I don't know why they're going for to take a bar to the second floor, and we have a residential next door.
Okay.
Those are your
We don't debate it. We
Yeah.
just, you get to make your comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else who wishes to speak to this license? Close the public hearing. Do I have a motion?
I think in this case, Mayor, we would conduct the drawing.
Well, I
Or-
Hey, the
I would
Commissioner.
I would hold off on that.
Okay.
Gary, go.
I'll make a comment real quick. How many licenses are there currently? How many are there? Class C licenses, how many?
Class Z license, okay. There are 7 currently that have been issued to throughout the city in various locations.
Okay. And the cap is by population, not by region or anything like that?
That's correct. It's based on population. We increase the number of licenses by 1 for every 10,000 increase in population.
Okay.
What's the
So,
cost of a Z license, Steve?
105,000?
Thank you.
all right, so basically the concern that a lot of people have is, you know, we cap these so that we don't have bars in every corner, and that the fear is that if we have too many bars, there'll be drunk people everywhere. And I think that that fear is often misguided and drives bad policy. I don't think it's good policy to decide what bar owner should get possibly a multi-million-dollar business based on a coin flip or drawing out of a hat. It should be either merit-based or something else. And in this case, I don't see why we would limit a license like this to 8 in a city of our size, considering that this isn't just for downtown, it could be for anywhere in the city of Fargo. So my concern is that I think we're limiting it for the wrong reasons. Limiting bars does not limit how many people drink. I've never heard anyone in the city of Fargo say, boy, I can't find a place to drink. There's plenty out there. You can go to any Applebee's or local place or whatever and have whatever drink you want there. So I think we're doing it for the wrong reasons. I think that we shouldn't be limiting them in the first place. And this isn't a new concern of mine. I brought this up to Liquor Control Board on other issues as well. So my motion will be to add 2 more Class Z licenses.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
How about the one that didn't apply? Do you want to add one more?
Nope.
So is it 2 more for the 3, so now we have a total of 3 more?
No, it'll be 2 total that we're creating
total.
tonight.
And when the person who got their application in late, what do you want to do about them?
We got it in late.
Well, but you're talking a philosophy, not limiting it, so my curiosity is why do we cite 8?
If they want to come in, or if you want to make a separate motion, you can certainly do that.
Well,
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a question?
Commissioner
So
Bedford.
would this affect, I mean, we have policies in place that say this is the policy, and so if we overrule that, are we going against our policy?
Yes, we would have to amend the ordinance. I'd defer to Nancy, but the ordinance spells how many licenses, and so we'd have to amend the ordinance. It would be, you know, the typical 6-week process to go about doing that.
And to your point, Mayor, I mean, if I thought that we could simply uncap all these licenses, I would make that motion. I don't think that there's an appetite for that at this time. So I'm basically making what I think is a motion that allows these people that have gotten their requests in on time to now get the licenses that they have applied for, been in good standing with the city with, and can move forward from there. If there's others that want to, we can have that discussion at that time.
Well, just in response to your memo, or your motion, is what happens is he had a deadline people had to apply for, they did. Right now, there would be no other Z license applicable, so the other person who wanted a Z license wouldn't be able to apply anyway. I mean, they could maybe come to the commission and ask for a Z license, but you're not changing that mechanism. You're still limiting the amount of Z licenses. And if the argument is that we ought to allow more bars throughout the town, then I would say change the ordinance to reflect that. And in many areas of Moorhead and West Fargo, that's what they have. You can have as many bars as you want in the community. So I am not quite sure, because the other one was tied to 10,000 people, but now you're going to get it, you know, maybe it's 8,000 people or 6,000, I don't know the numbers. But if you're going to consider changing the philosophy of liquor control, then I think you should have it go back to ordinance and really reflect that. Commissioner, or Police Chief Todd has some concerns about disturbances and how many bars you get together. I think is one of the concerns about having too many bars downtown. But when you're in New Orleans, they have a lot of bars and people seem to survive. We just know there may be more activity in the downtown area. But just to that point, that's the only reason I bring that up, is maybe we should have liquor control relook at it and come up with a fixable ordinance.
So, Mr. Chairman, and I do think I agree, John brings this up, we have to follow the policy too. That's the priority. If you want to change this, then we can address that at the liquor control, but to meet it, I would second the
Tonight, to
motion.
meet the needs, you want these two to both get licensed.
That was my intent, but.
But we would not be following the policy. So I seconded the motion so we can have the discussion, but I think that, yeah, if we want to change it, that has to go back through liquor control and things like that. That's just my opinion.
Commissioner Strand.
Thank you. And Mayor and others, I would agree that this is a policy discussion to go back to the Liquor Control Board if there's a desire to change the policy. But, you know, I've been a downtowner for 20 years or plus, and I've heard lots of anecdotal stories about the past, about our downtown. And one of them that sticks with me is and I'm downtown, but one of the things that sticks with me is this change in tone downtown. An old pillar of our community once told me that there was a strategy that they used to put the bars a block away from downtown, around the periphery, to spread them out. And then our downtown kind of hit a rock bottom, and we're just happy to fill gaps with anybody who wanted to have a bar almost. You know, but it's at some point, I don't know what point, if that's what we want in our downtown or not, and at what point do we go too far or not. I don't know what the community wants. And so I have this concern about what the desire of the people would be, you know, about alcohol and establishments and licenses, and I just don't know what they are sensing. But at this moment, I'm not inclined to deviate from the policy just because there's more than one applicant for a liquor license.
Commissioner Gary.
I mean, I think that the people speak with their wallets and with their feet. And what we've seen is over the last many decades, we've been incentivizing restaurants and bars to come downtown as a food and entertainment district. In fact, we made restaurant licenses that have full bars half the price in downtown with the RZ license, FARZ license, than we did outside of downtown. So we definitely did that. We stopped doing it, and we still see restaurants coming in. I mean, the reality is any restaurant can come here and get an FA license that has a full bar attached to it, and it's much cheaper. It's just they have to sell food. A bar license isn't any different than that, other than that they don't necessarily have to sell food, right? So I think people have told us what they want, because it's very popular down here to come here to eat and drink and hang out and listen to music and see art and all that kind of stuff. So until such time as the market speaks and we don't see any more people applying for these licenses, then I think we know what people want. But I will continue with my motion. If someone wants to amend it, that's fine. But I think for the period today, we can move forward with approving these two. We can go back to liquor control and readdress the cap in total. But I see nothing wrong with moving forward with it now.
Eric Johnson.
Thank you for just saying that last bit, because under our ordinance, we sort of only have the authority to issue one right now. If you, I kind of have been assuming that if you approve this motion, we move forward to amend the ordinance to allow the expansion, however you wish. But And I was going to say that whenever you act on this motion, if it's approved, you would still need to act on sort of the thing that's in front of Steve, which is the approval of, our current ordinance talks about drawing out of a hat and deciding the one. Or you can continue the hearing and, that obviously impacts startup date for whomever it might be, but there may be some options. But, you might have some more business to take care of after you act on this motion is all I wanted to say.
So, Eric, just as a question, because you love legal questions, but for a path going forward, which they want both businesses to get a license, we would continue the hearing, have it go back to liquor control, have them bring forth an ordinance to us, and then bring it to us, pass the ordinance, and then allow the 2 licenses? And what's the
It certainly could be a path
fastest
forward.
turnaround you could do for that?
The fastest turnaround is you waive receipt and filing a week before. Probably 4 weeks. 2 meetings from now, we could have an approved ordinance if the Liquor Control Board has met in that time and make a recommendation.
But it won't be 4 weeks because we don't meet that. We'd have to have the liquor control meet first, and so it's not going to be 4 weeks. It's going to be further than that.
Why does liquor control have to meet? We can direct
we're-
you in this motion to change the ordinance, and then it doesn't have to go to them, it'll come right back to us.
That's certainly your prerogative.
Okay, so I will amend the motion to do just that, and just come right back to you, or direct you to change the ordinance to 9 licenses instead of 7 or 8.
But there's public hearings, isn't that the concern? Don't we have to do a public hearing to hear people's concerns? Mr. Strand,
This is
brings
Tony.
a concern that some people might
I would
have.
like to see it go the normal process, not circumvent it at a commission meeting.
To answer the question of a public hearing, there's not a public hearing requirement for the ordinance. You have to come in front of regular meetings, and there's first reading, second reading requirements. And again, the normal protocol is it starts at tax exempt review, liquor control.
But at liquor control, it's a public meeting, so people do get an opportunity. If they're bar owners that want to speak to it, they'll have an opportunity to speak up or down. Commissioner Gary's question is, can we allow both licenses to go through tonight legally?
Yeah, you're not authorized to approve 2 licenses tonight. You only have authority under our ordinances to approve one ordinance tonight.
What's the pleasure of the commission?
We have a motion and a second, is it not a legal motion?
Well, I was assuming the motion was more in the nature of the policy direction. Your motion is, I guess, if your motion truly meant we want, that the effect is to issue 2 licenses, you don't have that authority, no. You have the authority, because the ordinance only allows for 1 because it's population-based, and there's only 1 available as a result of the current population.
So the way out to do a continuance of this motion, we could accept one tonight,
We're correct.
but to your motion, you kind of want them both to get a license, right?
Right, well, that's the ultimate intent is to, like you said, I would rather have no cap at all. But my intent here tonight was to allow both these to get them and then move forward from there.
Steve, could I just ask the 2 owners to come up? Are they ready to start business in 30 days?
I don't think either one is ready. Both buildings, the upstairs of the one and the other one I think they both need remodeling.
Well, their business plan may take 30 days to 45
Or
days
more,
anyway,
yeah.
so that wouldn't harm it. But if we went back and did a continuance and then fixed it, it could be okay? So
I
could we
believe
do
so.
that?
Sure.
Could I have, let's see, what do we do? Do we drop the last motion, or,
I'll recant it, I'll take it back.
okay. So can I have a motion, please?
Can you do that?
Can you do that, Eric?
Well, I don't know if you can withdraw a motion. I suppose you can, there's a second and a first.
Just vote no against it, how about that?
Just, take a vote, and John seems to know. I don't know if I've encountered that issue
Can you
before.
amend it?
I move
Can
that
amend it.
we follow the existing ordinance and through a lottery determine who the successful applicant is.
Is there a second?
Second. Can I ask a question, Mr. Chair? What happens to the first motion that was,
If you were to amend my motion, that would be just fine. That would cover that.
I
If you were
believe we
making
have
a
to,
motion-
I think we have to vote on the first motion,
Sure.
I think we do too.
right?
Sure.
right, John? Motion on the floor.
If it's not a legal motion, I'm not sure why we would. My sense is that the person who moved it withdrew the motion, but I suppose the second would have to be withdrawn too.
I withdraw my second.
On the
That'll
first
work.
motion.
I withdraw my second of the first.
That'll work.
So John now has a
that
motion
work?
that was seconded to do the one license. Roll call vote, please.
I second the second.
Is there any further discussion or no? Or
Is there any further discussion?
I'm just worried about Commissioner Goodberg.
Tony, do you want to discuss?
No, I have nothing new to offer.
Okay. Roll call vote, please.
Strand,
Yes.
Pepcorn,
Aye.
Garrick,
Yes.
Pepcorn,
Greenberg.
Grinberg,
Aye.
Mahoney.
No. So we're gonna give out one license tonight.
4-1.
Who's the picker?
Yeah, I have the tall guy do it. He can see it. He hesitated.
Anecdotally, at NDSU, there was a tie years ago for
The
student body
winner is
president.
District 64. Congratulations. So it is District 64 LLC doing business as District 64 at 64 Broadway North.
Now, can I have a motion in consideration for the other license? How you guys are gonna fix that?
I think we'll, without making a, can I make a comment, Mr. Chairman? I think that will just be referred back to the liquor control, and then we'll address it there. If that's okay with Commissioner Garrick.
It's illegal for me not to, I guess, so I guess we'll have to do that.
They need to withdraw the second.
I guess I am the loser in this situation, and just.
Put your name
I know
out
that,
there.
Personal bias. Oh, I'm David Erickson. I'm representing, I guess, LNS tonight, hospitality. And I know that personal bias was discussed in the last one. I'm not trying to, I just want to see what else, is the other name in there?
Oh,
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure and just be confirm and everything. Okay, perfect, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure that I didn't know how this whole election was going to happen, so I was kind of curious myself and stuff. And we'll just continue to play with the process and
So,
go to
Mr.
the next
Chair,
liquor
can I
control board.
address them? So
Chris Pepcorn.
you'll still have the opportunity now. So you will go back to the liquor control, and then we'll discuss adding a potential additional license. So that's.
Okay.
So, and Steve will be in contact with you, so you know when
Yep,
that
we
is and
talked,
things
yep.
like that.
Okay, sounds good. That's fair. Perfect, sounds good. Thanks, yep.
So we're gonna go back here to our item
32.
32. And we're going to have a report on the North Dakota Interagency Council on Homelessness. Nicole Crutchfield to explain.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Yeah, in your packet was a State of North Dakota's 10-year plan to end long-term homelessness with, as a call from the state, Mayor Mahoney is on this board. Yep.
Can I just interrupt you for one thing? Because we made a motion on the previous one, and we need to make sure that we do it correctly. Kember, maybe you can help us with that, but did we have a motion? The first one was basically eliminated, correct? But then the second one was Commissioner Strand?
Yes. To follow the existing ordinance and to
Right.
have a lottery appropriately.
Right.
So we should have a vote on that?
That's
That's what we voted on.
Run.
That's what we voted on.
No, we
No, you
voted on the
voted
license.
on the license.
I made the motion to approve the license, but I don't think we had a vote on that.
On John's motion.
Can you
Your
repeat it?
second.
I apologize for that, but we got to,
Better get it right.
Dan, why don't you read the motion as you see it, and we'll vote on it again.
Strand moved to follow the ordinance and then go through a lottery.
So that's not what we voted on?
No.
Okay.
so
So we'll do a roll call vote on that to follow the ordinance and do a lottery. Roll call vote,
What-
please.
Excuse me, Mayor, what was, in your mind, what was the vote we had for?
To follow the ordinance and then go to the lottery.
And we voted 4-1 on that.
No, that was on approving the license,
Right,
on the proven, that was the vote, 4-1 was on approving the license.
right.
I don't remember that motion.
Who made the motion?
John?
No, he made the motion he said he made.
Yeah, I made the motion to follow the ordinance.
And that one was 4-1.
Yeah.
We'll vote on it again. Roll call vote, please.
If I may, I'll offer what I perceived. It was his motion as suggested, and what I thought he was trying to say was, we'll approve whoever wins the lottery.
Okay.
Then we drew the name out of the hat, and the winner was therefore approved. And the record should just reflect that the winner was the 64. That's what I perceived was happening.
That's what I got.
If you need something more, then, as the mayor says, you certainly can vote on it.
I think we're good.
Sorry for that.
If you're comfortable, we can vote again. You want to just do the roll call so you're happy?
Sure.
Strand?
Yes.
Pepcorn?
Aye.
Garrick?
Yes.
Grinberg?
Yes.
Mahoney?
Aye. So you got one switch vote. Nicole, where are you?
Sorry about that.
You got to change the vote. There you go.
It was unanimous.
So,
Yeah.
as I was saying, the governor called his task force together to develop a report on the state's 10-year plan to end homelessness. The Mayor Mahoney sits on this task force, and the three largest cities mayors sit on there, along with many different state-level staff. So, sitting in for him last Friday, as my memo says in your packet, includes the agenda and the state's plan. The state's plan also coincides with the city's plan. So the city has a 10-year plan to end long-term homelessness that was basically expired in 2016. In my kind of precursory first few weeks in this position, I'm learning there's many different discussions and partners as part of homelessness. So we have our planning department working on policies. We have the in connections and networks. We have our health department, police department, the library, many different departments working on different factions of homelessness. What I wanted to do was introduce Cody Schuler. He's our executive director of the FM Coalition of Homelessness, and I'm not sure if everybody's had a chance to meet him or understand their mission. But they are getting ready to kick off the city metro-wide 10-year plan to end homelessness, updating the 2016 plan, or since the 2006 plan. And so I just wanted to turn it over to Cody real quick, and then be glad to answer any questions.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. It's good to be here this evening. Thank you for this time to just have an opportunity to introduce the Coalition for Homeless Persons for the Fargo-Moorhead metro area. We are a group of more than 60 partners, including the city of the cities of Fargo and Moorhead, working together in partnership to work to end homelessness. We want to find permanent solutions. And so the city has been one of the key partners in this. First of all, in 2006, kicking off that plan to end homelessness and making that a city priority, and then handing that over to the coalition to implement over the last 10 years. As Nicole said, it's now expired. And what we've been doing in the meantime since the end of 2016 has been taking a year to really reflect on what has worked and what hasn't worked, and the progress that we've made and the work that needs yet to be done. And our conclusion has been that we really need to engage the entire metro in this. And so what we want to do is take this 10-year plan and that is now expired, and be able to expand upon it with our partners in Moorhead, West Fargo, and Dilworth, and really make this a metro-wide plan where all of our partners, our cities, all of our agencies can come together and to be able to come up with some strategies to continue the good work that's been done. There's been a lot of progress made over the last decade, but we see that there is more that needs to be done, clearly, because the issue of homelessness still stands. So we want to take that good work and just carry it forward. And so the idea is that over the next 5 to 6 months or so, we'll be bringing stakeholders together, including elected leaders, and being able to put together shorter term strategies rather than a long 10-year plan that was sort of the federal government under the Bush administration started this idea that we should have 10-year plans, and so it really caught on. We did it at the state level. We've done it here. It's been really good in moving things forward, but the state of Minnesota and others are looking at shorter-term strategies. So we want to get in line with that and maybe do 2 and 3 year strategies that can be evaluated regularly and we can come back to. And so we're going to do that. So what I want to say tonight, first of all, and can stand for any questions, is to first of all say thank you to the City of Fargo and being such an excellent partner, everything from Gladys Ray to the police department, to the library, to the planning department, all the areas of the city that have engaged with us as partners. But then also to say that we really believe that homelessness can be rare, brief, and non-reoccurring. We know that there are mechanisms and models out there to be able to accomplish that. We've seen other places in the country move towards those goals, and we really believe that Fargo-Moorhead can do it as well. And so that is our mission and our goal.
Questions by the commission? We have an initiative to have no vet be homeless in City of Fargo. Has that been reached yet?
Technically, yes and no. So there is a lengthy vetting process that needs to be done for that. And so Fargo and the North Dakota side hasn't yet been able to be vetted for that and have that public declaration. However, West Central Minnesota, which does include Moorhead, Northwest Minnesota, so basically the Red River Valley, has been able to reach that definition of a functional zero for veteran homelessness. So in Fargo, we really, we can sort of claim that in the sense that we're under the same VA system, but we have not been vetted for that declaration.
How long will you take that to vet? 'Cause I've been hearing about this for the last 2 to 3 years, that no, we're there, but some process has not been done.
That's something that I'm not exactly sure on. I'll have to confer with my colleagues at the VA as to what steps we need to or where we're at in that process. And we'll be happy to work with your office, Mayor, because I know
Well, yeah,
the mayor's
because Ellery
office
Williams and I, at one point, we're going to do a proclamation on that, and it just seems like we always just miss the goal or just miss something, and I think you'd agree we want all our vets taken care of, so I don't really want that to happen.
So one of the things is that we need to be able to vet statewide data, and that has been a longer and more complicated process. And so we're, I'll find out and can report back to your office and to the commission at a future time as to where we're at.
The other question has come up in regards to the homelessness is that there may be a tougher population now. So when we had the oil boom going on, we had families coming up, didn't have a place to stay, but now we have a lot of people with addiction issues and or mental issues, and that it's a little bit harder because there's some violence in that population. How do you handle that, or what's your plan for that going forward?
Well, first of all, our very good frontline service staff across our community are all engaging that. And I think that what you just named as issues are significant that we'll have to work together on solutions. I don't have an immediate answer of like, here's the silver bullet, but that we will definitely address the change in the homeless population. And I think that the state of North Dakota and Fargo in particular, we were, I think our 10-year plan that was very good was also ran into some struggles because of the oil boom. I don't think anybody saw in 2006 foresaw what we would have come next, and what we did see with also helping out the rest of the state in looking at homelessness on the large scale and absorbing because of our shelter, having the shelter and the services here in this end of the state. So we need to go back and revisit that and sort of acknowledge that we had some anomalies in that last plan as we make strategies to move forward.
And just for the commissioners, I think when I reviewed the report that Nicole had, there were 2,000 homeless around the time of the oil boom, and now we're down to about 1,000 throughout the state, of which Fargo-Moorhead manages 300 to 400 on a yearly basis. So that 300 mark has probably not gone down. It continues to run around 300 that we have.
Yes, and oftentimes we will say that we have upwards of 1,000 people just in the Fargo-Moorhead metro alone, simply because when we count and try to acknowledge how many are in shelter, how many have we identified through outreach, but then we also have those who are unseen, those who are doubled up. The federal government doesn't allow us to count those as homeless, even though they don't have permanent housing at the time, but they're either safely or unsafely doubled up with friends or family or others. And so yeah, so it's hard to count, to get that count, but we do believe that we're still around that number.
Commissioner Strand.
Thank you, Mayor. This morning when we all woke up, it was sub-zero temperatures, and we're not out of the woods yet for these temps. And I think we've all been hoping and praying we wouldn't have any deaths. But I believe we had one last week, it would appear. And I'm not, there's no blame on anybody's shoulders. It's just a challenge to the community to do the best we can for everybody at risk out there. Could you, and this person was being serviced and was getting help out there, as I understand it. Could you help me understand what we are doing now? We started with the Armory and Moorhead, and then we moved over to Dilworth. And could somebody just help us know what is the reality today for people who know of somebody who's homeless, or where do they go for help, or is it still in Dilworth now, or I just don't have an update.
So I believe, actually, Nicole and I talked about this briefly. I believe she has more information than
Okay.
I've been given, so we'll, unless not.
Well, yeah, and,
We'll both try.
yeah, and also at some point I'd invite Ruth up here as well. I think in terms of the Dilworth plan, I think Churches United is very glad to say that they're out of the, kind of the crisis mode, if you will, in terms of finding a building and finding space. They've found permanent space, and they're working with this organization in Moorhead, where they've made architectural improvements and able to provide places. They have this is where I would go to Cody and Ruth for more information, but basically there's a check-in system at the shelters. Those check-in systems, they run with a prioritization list, and through that prioritization list, they bring those people to the place in Moorhead. So there is a designated place that's made improvements that can handle the overflow, that it's not a city building, if you will. And then their hope is through these architectural improvements that this will be a long-term solution. And so that will be part of the discussions as we get into the master planning, if you will, strategic planning over the course of the next few months.
And just down to the nuts and bolts, if there's a person on the street, is it our law enforcement, is it our fire department, is it our emergency, who handles it? How does it get handled?
Well, this is where I would defer. So as I mentioned, there's many different departments that touch homelessness and our health services. And so this is where I'd probably call on Ruth.
Okay.
Good evening, Commissioners. The communication network among our homeless folks is very robust, and we don't always know what they know, and they're a very smart, resilient group. So when you ask who lets them know where there are shelters, their communication amongst themselves is very robust. Many self-report to our shelters. Some are brought through our law enforcement. But they do know what resources are out there, and they are able to communicate that to each other.
So John's kind of wondering if somebody's walking down Broadway and looks like they're homeless, is there somebody, police give them a ride over, or what happens?
What do we do?
What do you do if somebody looks homeless?
Yes. What do you recommend? What should we do?
That's a really complicated question, because some days I can look homeless. And I wouldn't necessarily want us, picking people off the street and saying, you're homeless, where do you need to go? Obviously, if there's somebody who's in need, there's something going on physically, call the police department. We don't, through the health department, yes, we provide the direct service at the shelter, but we don't yet have a way to get folks to and from those facilities. Absolutely.
I will also add that we do have, particularly for downtown, we have our outreach worker who is through Gladys Ray, Jillian Gould, who is available to be able to, we don't have enough outreach. I think that we need more folks like Jillian, but her office is based at the library, and so she is one of the resources, including the police, to be able to reach out and to be able to resource individuals.
And John, she oftentimes gets them to where they need to get. So there's a network, people in the homeless population, I know many of these things, so
Yep.
I think John's just worrying about if somebody came into town and didn't know where to go. So.
Yeah, and we try to, I know Jillian works really hard and I work really hard to let folks, especially downtown businesses and individuals know that Jillian is listed in our resource card so that we're able, that people have her phone number to be able to access her to be helpful in addition to the police officer.
They can take the link over, it's free.
Thank you for the work you all do.
Thank you.
Any other issues? Thank you. We're going to move on to item 34, proposal by the Fargo Cass Public Health to administer a Good Neighbor Project syringe services program. Ruth Roman to explain. John Baird as well. Dr. Baird? Are you going to flip it out here? You're going to switch around? Or?
We'll switch it up a little bit. Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. I'm Dr. John Baird, Health Officer at Fargo Cass Public Health. I have a few comments to make. Ruth's going to contribute to this. Also, we have some handouts for the audience if they need anything to look at. I'd like to talk to you about the Fargo Moorhead Good Neighbor Project and Fargo Cass Public Health Good Neighbor Project Syringe Services Program that we're proposing. And harm reduction and syringe services programs, it has been referred to also as syringe exchange programs, are comprehensive programs designed to reduce the likelihood of transmission of blood-borne diseases, including HIV and hepatitis C. The public health benefits of a syringe services program are many, including removing potentially infectious syringes and needles from the community, providing injection drug users with sterile syringes, clean injection equipment, and education about blood-borne infections and safe injection methods, distributing condoms and education concerning safe sex, screening for infectious diseases, including HIV and hepatitis C, and providing an entry point for substance use treatment and other resources for each individual. Syringe exchange programs have been in the United States since the 1980s, when we were first combating HIV and trying to find ways to combat it. There's been numerous studies done on syringe exchange programs and their effectiveness. In 2011, the U.S. Surgeon General reviewed a number of existing studies and evidence and found that syringe service programs did prevent HIV among people using drugs, that they can facilitate entry into drug treatment and medical services, and that they do not increase the unsafe, illegal use of drugs. And they also reduce hepatitis C. Another review by the CDC in 2016, reviewing 15 studies looking at syringe service programs across the country, found that they decreased the prevalence of HIV and hepatitis C. As an example, one of the studies they looked at of New York's system, which had been in existence for a long time, found that between 1990 and 2002, HIV prevalence had decreased from 50% to 17%, and that person years at risk for HIV had decreased from 3.55 to 0.77 per 100 person years. More comparable to our size, Madison, Wisconsin has had syringe service programs available in their community since 1996, and they have reported that in 10 years, the number of new cases of HIV among people who inject drugs dropped by half. Looking at some of the expenses and the costs of it, the cost effectiveness analysis of the New York City exchange program found that a one-year savings to the government of $1,300 to $3,000 per client. Looking here in our state, just to get some idea of costs, I checked with the North Dakota Department of Health, and they say that an individual being treated for HIV in our state, it costs between $60,000 to $90,000 a year to treat each case of HIV. And the yearly cost for just medication of a hepatitis C patient would be $35,000 a year for the medication. There was a 2000 study that looked at syringe exchange programs, and they were individuals that were attending these programs and having contact with the staff were new visitors to an exchange were 5 times more likely to enter a drug treatment program after talking with staff. And then another 2014 study found that the rate of injection drug use decreased, and that there was a statistically significant reduction in overall population drug use rates over the time that these facilities were open. In 2017, the North Dakota legislature addressed this issue and passed Senate Bill 2320, which added a new section to the North Dakota Century Code to authorize syringe exchange programs in North Dakota, designating the North Dakota Department of Health as the authorizing agency to approve new programs and to monitor them and assess their effectiveness. That legislation also addressed drug paraphernalia guidelines and how syringes would be handled with syringe exchange programs opening. Our program, we have Jeremy Kelly as a harm reduction specialist who has been in our community and has worked for us for some time and now will be designated our harm reduction specialist. Janny Eliason from Gladys Ray Shelter and Veterans Drop-In Center will also be involved overseeing some of the activities, Ruth Roman and myself, and we also have a substance abuse prevention coordinator, Robin Litke-Sal, who's been involved in quite a bit with the planning of this. We held a public information meeting, which some of you attended, on February 2nd here at City Hall, and we had about 30 people in attendance and some questions, and we had a PowerPoint presentation and tried to present a lot of information on it. Looking at the need in our community, it's hard to measure how many intravenous drug users we have in our community. It's a number that's difficult to come up with, so we have to look at indirect measures. And unfortunately, some of those measures are drug-related deaths and how many deaths we have in our community from drug use. Many of those, it's difficult to tell if someone is injected or snorted or how they use drugs, but if they die of drug use, opioids, methamphetamine, cocaine, those deaths do exist in our community. And opioids has grabbed the attention, but there are other drugs in our community as we see. And what we're addressing specifically with this program is the disease transmission, especially HIV and hepatitis C. In 2016, North Dakota had 50 new cases of HIV, and Cass County had 15 of those new HIV cases. Preliminary data from 2017 shows that there's been 39 new cases of HIV in North Dakota, 8 of those in Cass County. And also hepatitis C. In 2016, the North Dakota state, the state of North Dakota had 1,047 new cases of hepatitis C. In 2017, North Dakota had 1,111 new cases of hepatitis C identified, and 236 of those were in Cass County. The most common reason that people give for being tested for HIV or hepatitis C is injection drug use or having sex with someone who is injecting drugs. So the population that we would actually serve anyone over the age of 18. We would serve anyone that needs syringes and other services. We don't know, we're estimating from the experience that the Good Neighbor Project has had in Moorhead that we could have 200 or 250 clients on a regular basis that we would see. The location that we've determined for this facility would be near downtown at 510 5th Street North, a city-owned building that was previously the sign shop and is now sitting empty, and we could utilize that location. And we would initially start out with hours every day, Monday through Friday, probably 4 hours a day just to get started in the morning and in the afternoon and into the early evening. The services that we would provide at this syringe services program would be HIV and hepatitis C rapid testing and counseling and STD counseling. If someone turned positive or was detected to be positive to either HIV or hepatitis C, we could bring them to our main public health facility for confirmatory testing and further counseling. We would also distribute opioid overdose rescue kits and education on naloxone and its use, do substance abuse treatment referrals, and other referrals as needed for counseling and behavioral health services, housing, job market, and that sort of thing. And basically, it would be a place that people that are having problems and having difficulties in their life could feel safe and secure to talk to someone and to get some assistance that they need. Ruth is going to talk a little bit about the source of funding and talk about that a little bit.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Baird. In your packet is a proposed budget, a 12-month budget cycle. Should have put the expenses first because I usually like to talk expenses, but going as it's printed for you, we're proposing about $128,000 budget. Revenue for that, the main source of revenue is a $75,000 grant that we are receiving from the North Dakota Department of Health. That grant is really two parts. One is to help us set up a program here in Fargo, but it's also to have our staff, primarily Dr. Baird and Jeremy, provide technical assistance to the rest of the state. We have other communities in the state. Mandan has already started their program, their syringe services program. Grand Forks is looking at a program. Valley City and Minot are also looking at potential programs. And the state is requesting that our staff here provide some technical assistance to those other communities. So that $75,000 grant will cover some of our costs here locally, but also allow our staff to consult and provide assistance to other communities. We are looking at some grants to cover the Narcan that we will be distributing at the site. Looking at some donations, because we will ask folks who are participating in the program to donate what they are able to. In this proposed budget, I'm asking for $29,900 from our City of Fargo budget. It is important to note that this is not new money that I'm requesting. This is part of the 2018 budget that has been approved. For the last 2 years, there's been a $50,000 line item for Fargo-Cass Public Health to address the opioid crisis in our community. And so we're moving things around a little bit and utilizing some of those funds to also fund this program. So of the $127,900, there is no request for new funding from the City of Fargo. Our expenses, much like any other budget, primarily salary, which would be Jeremy's full-time position, and also Dr. Baird's time that he puts into this program. Again, with Dr. Baird's time, currently we bill out Dr. Baird's time to a variety of our grant sources where he is offering his expertise. We would do this for this program as well, which would then, anything that isn't covered with Dr. Baird's salary by grants is City of Fargo general funds. So this would be more funding from grant sources that would cover Dr. Baird's salary, so there would be less general funds in that. Some travel, obviously our building expenses, we would have our heat, electricity, those type of expenses. Educational materials, syringes. There is part of the North Dakota law is that state and federal monies cannot be used to purchase the actual syringes. So we are applying for a grant to NASN, which is a low-cost syringe services program, where we'll be able to purchase syringes at a reduced rate. So run over of our budget, again, no new monies requested. The position, the harm reduction specialist, that position has gone through PEC. We've developed a job description, and so things are in place for that as well.
Thank you. Commissioner Grinberg, did you have a question?
No, just a comment. I wasn't able to make the form, and so Ruth was very kind in answering a lot of my questions, so it brought me up to speed and understanding this a little better. I also had communications this weekend with both the chairs of the House, Senate, and Human Service Committees, and they kind of helped put the perspective from a state, angle, if you will. So I'm going to support the program. My only request moving forward is for future funding, we should have other partners in this project as well, rather than just, maybe 5 years down the road with the City of Fargo covers it all if grant funds run away. So anyway, thank you, Ruth, for your working with me through electronic means to help me through this process and understand it better.
Absolutely. Thank you, Commissioner.
Discussion? Commissioner Pepcorn?
Sure, I got a couple of comments. So what they're asking for is they're asking us to spend public tax dollars, $29,900. That's our tax money. And this will be for using illegal drugs, correct? They're obviously using illegal drugs.
They're using the drugs in an illegal manner, yes. But what I'm asking is.
No, I'm talking. I'll ask the questions. So they're asking us to fund needles so people can use illegal drugs. And they're criminals. Obviously, if you're using drugs illegally, you're committing a crime, correct? That's correct. And so the other thing that's going on now is with heroin, if you have fentanyl in it, it can kill you immediately. And matter of fact, so like today, in Thief River Falls, there's a murder where the dealer was selling heroin with fentanyl in it. And so to me, hepatitis and all those are terrible, but I would pick that over dying of an overdose. And heroin is one of the things that's obviously being injected. And so I cannot for the life of me believe that we have medical people proposing this in the city of Fargo. It's astounding and so disappointing. So I will not be supporting it. Thank you.
Mr. Strand.
Thank you. And Commissioner Pepcorn, your sentiments aren't, you're not the only one that wonders these things and questions these things. And the reference was made to Madison approving a syringe exchange program in '96. And if we didn't have a crisis barreling down the tracks at us, I don't know that we'd be so compelled to act. We had 31 deaths the year before last, 17 deaths last year. There was a county in Indiana, I believe, that had 4,000 cases, a rural county had 4,000 cases of HIV explode. This touched so many families and so many different quadrants of the community. It's just a health crisis. It's the notion of, and I think people in law enforcement also say that we can't arrest our way through this health crisis. We have to give people help. We have to support them. We have to show them where there's hope. We have to give them some genuine care and help them minimize their risk and harm when they're up to their ears battling an addiction that's challenging their very existence. So I can completely understand your sentiment, and you're not alone. But I challenge us all to step into the lane where we're making a commitment to commit funds and services and people and resources to helping others and saving lives and minimizing their harms in lives from their bad choices. And I don't think anybody wants anybody to be using heroin or meth or cocaine or injecting drugs or doing any of this. None of us want that. But we do want our brothers and sisters and sons and daughters and neighbors and friends to be as valuable in their existence as they can be and contribute as much. So I appreciate I do. I'm not surprised. There are people out there that would have these exact same questions, and we'd be remiss not asking them those questions and concerns. But I hope we all act accordingly to the challenge facing our families and our people and our community.
Mr. Gregg.
And the last thing is I'd just so like to commend our law enforcement, our public health departments for your quick action. When I travel to other conventions and conferences across the country, they're just all throwing their arms up like, what do we do? And look at us, how much we have to be proud for. We have a methadone clinic that has approaching 200 patients in less than a year. Those are lives saved. And a few years back, we'd had a debate and an argument about whether we want a methadone clinic in our community. But the science has also come around to saying this is needed. And I think that so we have the right people. I commend you for your service, for your commitment to what's right, for your belief. And this isn't easy coming up and telling people we want to help people, maybe get some needles to do their drugs more safely. But it's a reality we're in. And hopefully we can get them other help as they're approaching services and coming into the system and finding out who's there to help them and realizing that we're on the same team to help each other.
Mr. Gregg?
Yeah, and when this conversation first started and it hit the newspaper, things like that, I posted it on social media and just kind of wanted to get a feel for what people were thinking about it. And the reaction was much of what you said from, I think, the majority of people who are posting on there. Not that that's any kind of scientific poll or anything like that. So what I told Ruth and John at the meeting was, if there's not good science that you can present here at the meeting today, then I won't support it. I think a lot of what you have here are things like you're 5 times more likely to go back into treatment if you use the exchange versus not, and the new person and the dollars and cents of it. So like John said, I think the science is behind this. It is, I think, hard for a lot of people to swallow that you have to provide these things in order to get people the help that they need. But it's like that. It's the carrot to try to help these folks out. So if that's what's required, and if that's what the science says, then I think I have to support it, and I hope people get the help that they need.
The other issue, as a healthcare provider, I have to put out that this is really harm reduction. One of the hardest things we do in healthcare right now is have an HIV patient or a hepatitis patient, which puts all the healthcare workers at risk, puts police and fire at risk if they happen to come across a patient that does have that disease, has blood on them, they can spread it to the police and fire. It puts our guys that pick up the trash. They can have a needle in there and poke them and they can get HIV. Before, HIV used to be a fatal disease. If you got stuck once, you just about faint. And we had healthcare workers very, very nervous about ever having that happen. And Dave, I'd challenge you a little bit. Hepatitis or HIV is not a fun disease. It's not always treatable, and you can die from it. So I'd rather not have either disease. 43 years, I've worked every day not to catch these 2 diseases for my patients. So it's when those people come in, it's a harm reduction. So one of the things this really is harm reduction. And you have 200 cases or 200 people that are using right now, and it's more, can we get them into treatment? We get them some help. And the mayor's task force, what we learned. We've cut the deaths down, but now we got to get people into treatment. So if it's an opportunity for this, we'll see how it works. Well, and I'm surprised the legislative body did pass this, and they were behind it, and I want to congratulate you both for what you did out there to get that to happen. But if our legislator, conservative as it is, did pass this bill, I think it gives us pause to wonder. I mean, they do see it as a health care issue in our public health system. So, any other discussion? Can I have a motion?
I so move.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Strand?
Yes.
Gehrig?
Yes.
Grinberg?
Aye.
Pepcorn?
No.
Mahoney?
Aye. Thank you very much. Item 35, change orders for project WA 1301, listed for you. Troy Hall, I think you're going to explain them. Is it all right if Troy goes through both 35 and 36 for us? It's change orders. Would that be okay for the team?
See 37 too.
And 37 too, yeah. Can you run through them all, Troy?
What's that?
Can you run through all of them?
Yeah, I have a few slides, so we'll just go through everything all at once, all 3 items, and then you can talk about it. So, thanks for having me here. We have in front of you 3 items, all related to the membrane water treatment plant. We have change orders for all 3 contractors, and then we have 2 task orders in front of you. The task orders, they were in the budget estimates before we started the construction projects, and then the change orders are within the funding plan that we have in place. Just before I forget, after I finish here, I have in the back of the room Ben Jolson. He's from AE2S. He is the project manager on the membrane plant, a great project. And also Jacob Strombeck. He's with AE2S, and he helps us with our overall water system planning. So, and I had a chance to kind of walk through the plant today, and it's very exciting. It's coming along. So, good chance to update you here. I have a few pictures, just slides as we have kind of walked through this process. Here's on the left. It's May 12th of 2015. That's before the construction started. So before anything happened, it was always planned for a water plant expansion. On the right, we go about 16 months into the future, and that's where the full excavation has taken place. We've had the piles or foundation put in, and then we have the main, the basement floor and walls. And I remember how exciting it was to that very first pour on the bottom floor. It was, now it's growing quite a bit from that. And then we move into the future about a year from that, in September 17th, and we have the building up, a lot of the brickwork. the roof on, and a lot of work going on inside in terms of process piping. And then the last picture is from last week. We see a lot of the brick is done, windows are on. There's a lot of work going on inside with all three contractors trying to finish up. Once we get permanent electrical power to the building, which will happen later this month or early March, we'll be getting into startup activities. And then here's some pictures from inside the treatment plant. We have pre-treatment on the left, that's plate settlers like we have, that's to take out mud from the river water. And then ultrafiltration, it shows the pumps, they pull a vacuum and pull the water through and take out particles. The water is very clean at this point in time in the process, early on in the process, but it helps us we get a lot of credit for pathogen removal by the time it gets through this process. And it's set up for the reverse osmosis kind of cleanup step. Here we get to the reverse osmosis. There's seven skids. There's like 370 some RO elements in each one of them. And the total, when we get them loaded up, it'll be about $1.8 million in just RO elements in the skids. Each skid can put out just under 2 million gallons a day. The picture on the left, that's the instrumentation control panel, and then where we get water samples on the skids. The picture in the middle, that is the reverse osmosis pumps downstairs. They put the pressure to the RO elements to take out the salt. And then the one on the right is pressure, shows the skids from another angle. That's pressure vessels that the RO elements are inside. And then this is the taste and odor control part of it. On the very left, we have a skid that makes an ozone solution to inject ozone into the water to take out taste and odor. The middle picture is the pipe. It has 5 minutes of contact time with ozone, and we can get rid of the taste and odor without forming bromate. That's the idea with this one. And the chemistry is very targeted towards taste and odor control. And then the one on the right, that's granular activated carbon vessels, and that will help a little bit with taste and odor, but it's really to clean up and make a stable water going out in the distribution system. So that's kind of a tour, or just a quick update on the plant construction. What we have in front of us, change orders with all three contractors. If we looked at it's 289,000. If we look at like percentage overall changes for the plant, I didn't include, there's 2 items we added when we brought on West Fargo as a customer that weren't really attributed to, normal construction things. But if just normal omissions errors, we're at 1.66%. Industry average is about 3 to 5%. So we have a little ways to go, but we're doing pretty well there. So that's the item 35. When we get into the startup services, this is a task order with A2S, and we're getting into the point where transitioning from construction to startup of the plant. So this covers that. It's a pretty complex plant, so there's a lot of stuff going on in this, but startup coordination, technical documentation, hands-on startup, and then training of staff so we can hopefully make a real smooth transition into the new plant. And then item 37 is INC Phase 2 services, and that's the control system programming portion of it. AE2S is unique in that they have an instrumentation and control branch to them. Normally, you have an engineer that does a project and you hire someone else to do programming. They happen to have a very good programming, instrumentation, control services, so we're going to use them for that. This will program the control system, and then also provide the startup of these instruments. So that's kind of what we have. Again, was all accounted for in the budget estimates.
Any questions? Mr. Gehrig?
I'll just make the motion, and then we'll have comments here. I move to approve items 35, A through C, 36 and 37, unless someone wants to separate them.
Is there a second?
I'll second it. I have some questions. So where's the money coming from to pay for all this?
Yeah, that's a good question. We had $30 million in State Water Commission grant funding from the state. That was before we started the construction. That was part of it. A big reason for this plant was the Devil's Lake release impact, and when it was kind of before my time in Fargo, but they looked at it. Here's the projected cost attributed to just the sulfate removal and those removals from Devil's Lake. Then the other portion is SRF or State Revolving Fund loan funding that's administered by the North Dakota Department of Health, and we have a loan in place or being amended right now to cover the rest of the costs, and it's all part of our financial plan. We just paid off the existing plant, so when we roll into this one, it's very similar payment on an annual basis to the other plant.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Commissioner Gary?
Troy, first, when you have pictures, put people in the pictures, makes it more interesting. So
What's that?
put people in the pictures. My mom always told me that when I took vacations, to put
Yeah,
people in
yeah.
the pictures, so it's more interesting
We'll
to
work
look
at
at.
it.
Okay. So yeah, Dave, $300,000 in change orders, that was a sticker shock to me when I first saw it at the utility committee. The explanations were there, and this is like the big rock that we have before we can move on to turning the lights on and getting this thing going. And then for me, the upfront cost of just turning the lights on too was shocking, almost $1 million to get all the stuff in order, to turn everything on, and then to get the equipment there to get it done with and start rolling. But this is a huge project. We're still within that 2% of change orders, which, we don't want to see change orders, but that's really close where we want to be. This project is going to bring the city and the region to a whole new level of production, being able to utilize many different water sources, and this is obviously a huge part of that. So I'm glad to see that we're getting close to the end, and it'll be an exciting time.
Okay, thank you.
Great job by your team. Appreciate it very much. Really has helped us out. Glad you got rid of that bromide in the water.
We're-
Showers were a little smelly. No.
Right.
Roll call vote.
Gehrig?
Yes.
Pepcorn?
Aye.
Strand?
Yes.
Mahoney?
Aye. Motion to adjourn?
I so move.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.